When German forces invaded the Soviet Union in the summer of 1941, they expected a campaign similar to earlier victories in Western Europe. Instead, they encountered something entirely different. Soviet tanks such as the T-34 and the KV-1 appeared on the battlefield with thicker armor, wider tracks, and guns capable of destroying German vehicles at ranges that had previously been considered safe. These encounters shattered the illusion of armoured superiority and forced German military planners to rethink their entire approach to tank warfare. The answer was not an incremental improvement, but a radical leap forward. German engineers were ordered to design a heavy armoured vehicle capable of defeating any enemy tank at long range while remaining immune to return fire from the front. The result was a machine that placed raw battlefield dominance above all else. Development moved quickly, with competing designs submitted by Henschel and Porsche. After trials and evaluations, the Henschel design was chosen, largely due to its superior reliability and more practical mechanical layout. By mid-1942, the new heavy tank entered production, and soon after it was ready for combat. From the very beginning, it was clear that this vehicle would never be produced in large numbers. Manufacturing was slow, expensive, and demanding. Between 1942 and August 1944, only 1,347 units were completed. Each one required vast amounts of high-quality steel, complex machining, and skilled labour, resources that Germany increasingly lacked as the war dragged on. This was not a weapon of mass deployment, but one intended to dominate key sectors of the front through superior firepower and protection. Weighing around 57 tons, the tank was among the heaviest operational armoured vehicles of the war. Its armour was thick and uncompromising, with up to 100mm on the front hull and turret. While later designs relied heavily on sloped armour, sheer thickness at the time provided exceptional frontal protection. In many engagements, Allied guns were simply unable to penetrate it head-on, even at relatively short distances. This made frontal assaults extremely costly and often ineffective. At the core of its lethality was the 8.8cm KWK-36 gun, derived from the famous German anti-aircraft weapon. This cannon combined accuracy, penetration, and range in a way that few tank guns of the era could match. Enemy vehicles could be destroyed at distances well beyond 1,500 meters, often before they were even aware they were under threat. Combined with excellent optics, crews were able to identify, engage, and destroy targets long before opponents could respond effectively. Inside, the vehicle was operated by a crew of 5, with a layout that prioritized efficiency and command control. Communication between crew members was clear, and the commander benefited from good visibility and situational awareness. Compared to many Allied tanks, crew ergonomics was surprisingly advanced, allowing trained units to maintain high combat effectiveness over extended periods. In the hands of experienced crews, this heavy tank became a precision weapon, rather than a blunt instrument. Its first combat deployment in late 1942 near Leningrad was far from flawless. Mechanical issues, difficult terrain, and limited crew experience exposed serious weaknesses. Several vehicles broke down before even reaching the battlefield, and recovery was often impossible under combat conditions. These early failures, however, were not representative of its true potential. As crews gained experience and operational doctrine evolved, battlefield performance improved dramatically. On open terrain and in defensive roles, the tank was devastating. It excelled at long-range engagements, using its gun and optics to destroy enemy vehicles before they could close the distance. It was particularly effective in ambush situations, where concealment and positioning allowed it to strike with overwhelming force. Reports from Allied crews frequently described shock and confusion when confronting this heavy German tank, especially when frontal fire proved ineffective. It saw action across nearly every major theatre of the war. On the Eastern Front, it played a significant role in battles such as Kursk, where its firepower inflicted heavy losses on attacking Soviet formations. However, the battle also revealed critical limitations. Dense minefields, mechanical strain, and overwhelming numbers reduced its effectiveness. Even the most formidable tank could be neutralized by coordinated artillery, infantry, and air attacks. In North Africa, it appeared relatively late during the fighting in Tunisia. Allied forces initially struggled to counter it, suffering losses until new tactics were developed. Rather than engaging it directly, they relied on air power, artillery, and numerical superiority. Similar patterns emerged later in Italy and Western Europe, where it was increasingly used in defensive roles to slow Allied advances, rather than to spearhead offensives. Its strengths were undeniable. Exceptional firepower, thick frontal armour, high-quality optics, and powerful psychological effect made it one of the most feared weapons on the battlefield. Its mere presence could alter enemy plans and force caution. Tank commanders such as Michael Wittmann became famous for their actions while commanding this vehicle, achieving remarkable kill counts in single engagements. Yet these strengths came at a steep price. Mechanical reliability was a constant concern. The engine and transmission were pushed to their limits by the immense weight, leading to frequent breakdowns. Fuel consumption was extremely high, placing further strain on already overstretched supply lines. Transportation posed major challenges, as bridges often could not support its weight, and rail movement required special preparation. Once immobilized, whether by mechanical failure or combat damage, it became highly vulnerable to air attacks and artillery. Side and rear armour, while still thick, were far less formidable than the frontal plates. Skilled enemy crews learned to exploit this through flanking maneuvers, coordinated attacks, and the use of specialized anti-tank weapons. Over time, the aura of invincibility faded as Allied forces adapted and improved their tactics. A comparison with the Panther highlights the strategic dilemma Germany faced. The Panther was lighter, faster, and more economical to produce. Its sloped armour offered excellent protection without excessive weight, and it represented a more balanced approach to tank design. While the heavy tank dominated long-range engagements, the Panther was better suited to the realities of industrial warfare. Nevertheless, both vehicles suffered from rushed development and mechanical issues, and neither could compensate for Germany's growing material disadvantages. In the end, this heavy tank achieved tactical success but failed to deliver strategic victory. It could dominate individual battles and inflict severe losses, yet it could not be produced or deployed in sufficient numbers to influence the overall outcome of the war. Industrial capacity, logistics, and air superiority ultimately mattered more than individual battlefield performance. Today, it remains one of the most iconic armoured vehicles ever built. It symbolises both the heights of German engineering ambition and the limits of technological superiority, in a total war. A machine capable of extraordinary battlefield feats, yet ultimately unable to change the course of history.